Hey everybody, it's your transparent realtor, Megan Shoff. Today, it's all about sellers. I get this question a lot, especially from sellers, when it comes to how do I get my house market ready? There's a few things that you can do to get your house market ready. But first, I recommend interviewing a couple agents to see which agent is able to provide you the service that you need. Once you find that agent, the next step is to discuss their listing strategy and what is conducive for your pockets along with your timeline, because those two things can make a really big difference in how your guys' strategy is moving forward. The biggest component of determining how we need to move forward is the seller's timeline, how quickly they need to sell that house. Because as of October of 2025, as I'm making this video, houses are sitting a little longer because there is quite a bit more inventory than we've seen in past years. So it's especially important for sellers and real estate agents to really work together to figure out a good strategy for that seller. So first, once we have discovered your timeline, next we're going to discover your out-of-pocket budget when it comes to getting your house ready for the market. Now, if you have a budget that you can recarpet your house or redo some flooring, then we can talk about doing some major expenses to get your house market ready. But if you're on the more frugal side and you don't have the ability to do those large improvements, then we can also figure out things that will work for your pocketbooks prior to putting your house on the market, and then things that we can offer as an incentive to buyers, especially if you know if your flooring absolutely needs to be replaced because it's just lived a hard life, and how we can attract buyers to be able to see past the flooring and then offer maybe an incentive for that. And I'll get into that in a second. First and foremost, the most important thing is going to be pricing. And that is going to be a strategy conversation with your agent based on how quickly you need to sell your house and based on the comps of your specific property. Typically, we look for data within the last 6 months to determine the market value for your house. But I'm even going to say 3 to 4 months tops, because sometimes, very rarely do I come across a seller who wants to put their house on the market tomorrow. Usually there is a 30 to 60-day window of getting their house market ready to put their house on the market. And if I'm going 6 months back, then that information is going to be 8 months old when that house hits the market. So I really like to stay in that 3 to 4 month window to determine a good market value for your property. Now, I will say, we as listing agents interpret the market to come up with a recommended list price. Sellers, at the end of the day, it is your decision because it's your house. That's why it's really important to hire an agent that you trust and that you know is putting your best interest. So that way it's a more collaborative conversation when it comes to listing. Listing price, you guys, is paramount these days. In the past, we have had sellers who wanted to list a little higher than what the agent recommended to give themselves room to negotiate. And I'm going to tell you why that's probably not in your best interest to garner you top dollar for your house. I also work with buyers. So when I see a house that's slightly overpriced, my buyers also see that, because I educate and inform my buyers and recommend that they look at homes that they're interested in to get an idea of what their money will get them. And if they see a house that has been regularly listed, I'm just going to use easy numbers, at 300,000, but your house is listed at 310, they're going to be like, Meg, that looks exactly like the house that I saw in this same area, and it's $10,000 more. I don't even want to look at it. And that's mostly what buyers are going to do. They're not even going to look at your house if it's overpriced. They're going to skate right on by and go to the next house that is essentially your competition. So sellers, if you want to get the most amount of money out of your house, I would list it in a competitive margin, which means you need to look at other homes that are on the market to find out what your active competition is and then price according to that. Unfortunately, there are resources out there that give sellers false hope for what the value of their property is. And I will say that, unfortunately, as automated as our industry can become, there is nothing that can replace talking with an agent and getting an accurate market value for your property. So I would use that as a leveraging conversation to see what your house could be worth, but I also would take that agent who actively works in that market's opinion over an automated value that you're receiving from a website. Pricing. We're going to talk about pricing. Pricing is number one to get your house ready for the market, is determining what that value is. Okay. The next step is professional photos. There is nothing that bothers me more as a real estate agent when I see a beautiful home that is put in the multiple listing service, MLS, that is being captured with cell phone photos. If your agent breaks out their cell phone to take listing photos, that would be a red flag for me if I were a seller. There is nothing that can replace professional photos being done on a house, because where do most buyers find their properties? Online. And how do they find those properties but through photos that are taken of your house? So, you see where I'm going with this. If you want your house to be depicted in the best light for future buyers, professional photos are a must. Because I tell you, professional photos, while they are out-of-pocket costs for your agent before the house goes on the market, the cost is nominal. Other things that you can do to get your house ready for the market is take care of the exterior of your house. Pressure washing the exterior or repainting if you have a material that you can repaint. Repaint your front door. Keep your yard tidy and declutter. Also, a fresh cut on your lawn, along with a good edging and a really good lawn cut prior to, like, 1 to 2 days prior to photos, will make the curb appeal, which is still a thing, you guys, will make your curb appeal that much more attractive to make that buyer want to click on your house when they're scrolling through 100 houses. Weedy and freshly mulch your flower beds. Clean your interior and exterior windows. Obviously, we don't want to see a bunch of cobwebs on the exterior of the house, which goes along with the pressure washing. And then also apply fresh stain to the deck or wooden fencing if you have it. When it comes to the interior of your home, picture photos of an Airbnb. Okay, that is what we should be trying to depict or replicate when we're doing listing photos for your house. So obviously we want items that make it look like you live there, but we also don't want to see a countertop full of items that takes away from the beautiful counters that you have in your house. We want to highlight the assets and the attributes to your house without clouding that and not allowing a buyer to fully see the beauty of your property. So since you're already planning on moving, it would be a good time to declutter your house and get rid of things and purge items, and then also box up items that you don't necessarily need. Remove personal items. I know some people are very particular. They don't want photos of their family members in the listing photos, and that's your prerogative. So it does help to have some furniture in the property, but when it comes to hiding and clouding the beauty of your property, there is a happy medium there, and that's where your real estate agent can come in and help you narrow down which items would be good to highlight your house, and then which items are going to potentially cloud and hinder a buyer from seeing the true beauty of your property. Now, if you are financially able to, replacing your carpets, if they're worn and torn because of pets or children, then I recommend doing so. If your carpets are still in decent condition, just needs a carpet cleaning, that's an option too. Freshly paint your walls, trim, and ceiling. There's nothing like a good fresh coat of paint when I walk into a house that just makes the house look cleaner. It shows better, and then buyers are able to also see past, especially super vibrant colors in properties. You love the color scheme of that. That's wonderful. But at this point, when we're marketing your property, we are marketing it to the masses, and typically people like to see clean, muted colors in a property so they can visualize their items there. And if they want to change the colors accordingly, then they can after they close. So it's all about what highlights and markets your property the best, because at this point, you guys, your house is now becoming a home you're trying to sell. And so that buffer of what works and what you like needs to be separated so that way we can attract the buyers and what they want in a house. I will say also, I get a lot of sellers who want to do all of these little repairs around the house because it bugs them. And we don't want you to be doing a ton of unnecessary repairs where a buyer may not care about it, but it bothers you. So there is a line where, yes, you want to make your house market ready, but you also don't want to be putting unnecessary money into that house that a future buyer doesn't see the same level of value that you do. So there is a happy medium, which again, that's a conversation to go over with your real estate agent to determine what items get most bang for your buck for the marketability of your house, but then also don't break the bank. You can easily replace outdated fixtures or you can clean your lighting fixtures. That really helps the house pop. Minimize and clean your pet areas. Obviously, a lot of people have furry friends that live in their house, and some people who are purchasing a house either may be allergic or don't have furry friends, and so we have to also market to those people also. So again, keeping your house clean and smelling fresh for everybody and their tolerance for odors is important. Replacing burned out light bulbs. I know it sounds very silly, but you would be surprised at how many buyers I have walking through a house that are like, oh my gosh, that light bulb doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, it might be just a light bulb that's burnt out. But in their mind, they're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with that fixture? It's got to be broken. So to alleviate that mystery, go ahead and replace all of your burned out bulbs as they burn out. So that way a buyer doesn't kind of catastrophize a burnt out light bulb. Okay. There is a peak market time in our area, and that's usually in the warmer months from like March to September, because people are, our military community is moving within those months. That's typically what we call PCS season, or permanent change of station session or season. And then also people move in between school years, right? People with families, they don't want to uproot their children in the middle of a school year, so they do wait until after in the summer to do that move. So while yes, there is a peak season to list your house, I will say that it is not without the realm of possibility to sell your house outside of those seasons. This is where the pricing and the staging really comes into play, because while yes, there's less buyers on the market at that point, those buyers are usually a lot more serious, because again, people who are buying in those months are people who have to buy. They're not just people who are looking to maybe move because they want a bigger yard. There are conversations that we can have around, hey Meg, you know what? My pockets are slim right now and I can't put all of this money into a house that I'm trying to sell because I need to save my money to buy for my future house. That's a conversation that we can have to figure out what works for you to maintain your pocketbook, but also put a house on the market that will sell. And there's usually a couple nuances that go along with that, but that's a specific conversation for a specific seller. So if you are one of those sellers, I would love to have that conversation with you to see what would work for you in your specific situation. These are just general ideas on how to market your home in the most ideal situation. Now, if you have any questions or you would like to add anything to this list, I am open to any feedback that you have. And again, I appreciate everybody for stopping by and listening to me. If you think this information would be a benefit to anybody, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe my content. It would mean a lot. Again, real estate, real talk, transparent guidance. Until next time, guys.